Hello everybody, and welcome back to Steven's Fight Show. No, this is not a drill. No, this is not a dream. I'm back. And after a very close battle against the current lightweight champion in the world, Alexander Volkanovski looks to return to his natural weight division and continue to add on to his legacy. He will be taking on the featherweight interim champion of the world, Yair Rodriguez. He is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC right now. He has a very unique and tricky style, but also dangerous style as well. It's International Fight Week, and this is set to be one of the most exciting fights of the year. We obviously know that Volkanovski is the most dominant champion in the UFC right now. On top of that, people believe that stylistically Yair Rodriguez can beat Volkanovski and dethrone him. And that sounds crazy because Volk has had one-sided performances that have gone in his favor apart from the Holloway 2 fight. Everything that he has displayed at 145 in his last few outings was incredible. Even in his last fight at 155 where he lost. He wasn't declared as the winner, but he still won because of how great he performed. However, styles do make fights, and when you pay attention to how Yair Rodriguez fights, there are certain things in his style that he can take advantage of against Volk. Let's start with Volkanovski. The first thing that I'll mention is his striking. He is one of the best strikers in the world, and arguably the best. His speed is one of his best gifts. He can unload very quick combinations with his punches and kicks. We saw it against Holloway where he was just able to beat Max Holloway to his punches. And not only is he quick, but he also has great footwork, head movement, timing, precision, feints, setups, and even power as well. He doesn't have a lot of KOs on his record, but he does hurt people when he does land. He can fight well from kicking and punching range and inside the clinch as well. Overall, he's almost a complete striker that's dangerous everywhere. Secondly, his IQ is phenomenal. He makes reads very well and can adjust efficiently during the fight. When you compare other great fighters to Volk, they either can't seem to make the right reads, or they can't create a counter to their opponent's counter, whereas Volk can do it as if it was just pure instincts. When he makes the right move, he'll tend to stay there until you make a move. He has a brilliant mind for the sport of MMA. Thirdly, he has a great gas tank for MMA. Most fighters from other combat sports like boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu have cardio that's dedicated to their sport. However, MMA has a mixture of striking and grappling, and everyone already knows that striking fatigue and grappling fatigue are not the same. When you're primarily a striker and you're forced to wrestle or grapple for a long period of time, by the time you try to strike again, it becomes a whole lot harder. But Volk seems to be an exception because he has a great balance of having fast twitch muscles along with being able to have a good amount of oxygen through the course of an MMA fight. He can keep the same pace from round 1 up until round 5, and he can be just as lethal as if he was fresh. Fourthly, Volk is one of the best all-around fighters in the UFC. Some people might not believe this, but Volk actually has a background in Greco-Roman wrestling. Kind of hard to believe when you see how he fights today. However, Volk can be offensive and defensive when it comes to his wrestling game. His grappling is also good. He has one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the game in his corner. Lastly, one of the best traits about Volk, and it actually has nothing to do with his skills or anything physical about him. This is kind of crazy because this quality is the reason why he's the best champion, but it's his intangibles as a fighter. He has incredible heart, grit, and determination as a mixed martial artist. He showed it against Brian Ortega when he was caught in that crazy guillotine and somehow he escaped. His ability to stay calm and composed and listen to his corner for instructions, all while refusing to tap, was unbelievable. Even against Islam, where he had to go through 5 straight rounds of defending takedowns and landing strikes, and he almost won the fight as the much smaller man. All of this should be a testament to his mental strength and how he feels inside the octagon. And through my years of watching combat sports, I've always believed that any man that is willing to die is always dangerous until he's dead, and that's who Alexander Volkanovski is. On the other side, Yair Rodriguez has some of the best kicks in MMA. He has a taekwondo background, which is primarily a kicking based art. He has a wide variety of kicks that consist of leg kicks, body kicks, head kicks, question mark kicks, wheel kicks, spinning back kicks, axe kicks, front kicks, tornado kicks, and so much more. These aren't kicks that you normally see in MMA. You can list any great striker in the UFC right now. The chances of them throwing all of the kicks that I just mentioned are very little. The reason for that is because some of these kicks are either too advanced, risky, or ineffective according to their fight style. However, for Yair, it doesn't seem to be an issue. He's got incredible leg dexterity where he can pick up his foot and sneak it over your shoulder where you can't see the kick. And he's not a fighter that just throws these techniques with improper technique. No, he throws these techniques from different different angles with such speed, precision, and power. And it catches people because they don't see it coming. I just mentioned that these kicking techniques aren't commonly seen by other MMA fighters in the game. So because of that, Yair has the element of surprise in his corner. Volk will most likely have never seen a style like Yair, and he'll likely struggle to find a sparring partner that can replicate Yair as a fighter. So essentially, Volk will likely face a fighter that he only sees once and will likely never see again. Secondly, Yair throws a ton of unorthodox combos. To add to his kicks, Yair will follow up with techniques that you don't normally see. Again, we're still on the topic of the element of surprise. What I mean when I say this is that Yair will throw a body kick and he might leap into range with a 1-2, or he'll throw a jab, then a side kick, and then follow up with a 360 roundhouse kick. Or he might throw a scissor knee, follow up with an elbow, and then throw a wheel kick. Notice how it sounds like there's so much happening at once. That's because that's what's happening in his fights. Yair is very wild and chaotic, but very crafty and unpredictable as well. He probably doesn't even know what he's going to do, let alone his opponent. And these aren't combos that coaches will tell you to throw, or train for you to even throw as well. But because no one else is doing it, it becomes an advantage for Yair. Thirdly, Yair has pretty good bottom game from the ground. When he gets taken down, or if he's on his back, he's not really one to settle by being there. He's going to throw ground and pound strikes and elbows from the ground. He's going to be throwing up his legs trying to look for triangle chokes. He's going to be scrambling trying to get back up to his feet. The point is, he won't make it easy for you to hold him down the entire time. It's going to take a lot of work to do so. Fourthly, his footwork allows him to maintain distance so he can fire his kicks. Whenever he's in his kicking range, that's where he's at his best. You do not want to stay there for too long because that is where he thrives. He's got lateral movement as well as in and out movement. You can't be as explosive as he is and not be able to move as well as he can on his feet. His movement allows him to avoid taking unnecessary damage as well as close distance and exit. Lastly, the quality that makes Yair dangerous is his commitment. Earlier, I mentioned that Yair is wild and unorthodox and he throws his techniques with power and speed. When he throws a strike, he's throwing it with the intention to land. He's not looking to set something else up, he's looking to take your head off, even if it means that it'll put him in a bad position. If you watch his fights, you'll see moments where he'll throw unorthodox combos and either get caught in the process, his back would be turned against his opponent, or he'll end up on his back on the ground. He is relentless and quite frankly, he doesn't seem to care. Even if there is a 2% chance of him landing what he wants, he'll do it. He's the type of fighter that loves to take risks in his fights. Definitely not a play it safe type of fighter, I'll tell you that. In order for Volk to retain his title, there are a few things that I believe he has to do. The first one is that he needs to utilize leg kicks to neutralize the movement of Yair. If he can get Yair to stop moving and instead be a stationary target, then the fight will become a lot easier for him. Yair is at his best when he's bouncing on his toes. When he's doing this, he's trying to set up his attacks that can come from any angle and establish his rhythm. Secondly, Volk has to close distance whenever Yair opens up with kicks. I believe Volk is the faster fighter, and Yair usually follows up after he opens up with kicks. However, if Volk can block a kick and beat Yair to the target before he gets there, then he will reset Yair's offense every time. This leads to my third point, which is to keep the fight at your boxing range. Volk is the much better boxer, and Yair has shown weaknesses in that boxing range. Against Emmett, there were times where he got caught by big shots in the fire. Yair can get caught being on the center line, and Volk has very good head movement. He's going to stick and move and win exchanges a whole lot easier within that boxing range. So the longer the fight is there, the better it is for Volk. He cannot play the distance game against Yair where he's content with being in Yair's kicking range. If he has the mentality of going point for point with Yair, then he's going to have a tough night. Lastly, look for Volk to use his wrestling. Yair is not a striker that you want to strike with even if you're elite. This is MMA. You can wrestle if you're capable of doing so. Even Max Holloway, who's a dangerous volume striker that pretty much has his way against everybody besides Volk, he even felt the need to wrestle against Yair. And that says a lot. Yair looks very dangerous when he's fresh. I think if Volk wrestles early on and drains Yair, then the striking becomes less effective as the fight goes longer. For Yair to become the undisputed featherweight champion, he has to manage the fight in his kicking range. The longer he can influence Volk to stand with him in the center of the octagon and go point for point, then that's where Yair has him where he wants to be. From this distance, go ahead and fire those kicks. Keep him at bay and do not let him close distance so easily. Secondly, set up your dangerous kicks with punches. Like I said earlier, Volk likes to move his head and he showed a lot of that against Max Holloway. However, if you pay attention, you can actually see a pattern of Volk slipping on the outside. If Yair can channel his inner Leon Edwards and set up a kick behind a punch and catch Volk leaning into it, it could be lights out. Or if he can land a knee as Volk is ducking down. And that's what makes this interesting because against a guy like Volk, you have to put him out to beat him. Also make sure to give him different looks. Do not show him patterns of your offense because you best believe he'll take advantage of it as well. Thirdly, incorporate shot selection and pacing. And like I said, Yair is very wild and reckless. However, unless you're significantly better than the champion, then you want to make smart decisions. Do not throw any strike that will put you in a bad position when you didn't need to do that in the first place. You saw a lot of these moments in the Emmett fight and try to limit those against Volk. Plus, you gotta pace yourself correctly. Kicks take up a lot of energy. Acrobatic kicks take up even more. I'm a former taekwondo athlete and I can certainly say that a few kicks can instantly zap your energy. And I think as the fight goes longer, Volk will only get better. So if Yair gasses himself out with kicks and on top of that he might need to also grapple, when he heads into the later rounds it's going to be hell. That is where Volk is at his best. That is where Volk lives. Lastly, use your footwork to avoid being up against the fence. Volk will put it on Yair in this fight and he is going to have to use his lateral movement to avoid punches. It helps him be less of a stationary target and forces Volk to move with him. A bonus key for both men are feints. Volk has to feint to enter range and keep Yair guessing, and Yair has to feint to set up kicks and keep Volk at bay. This is crucial for both men and I think we'll see a ton of that early on in the fight. So for my official prediction, I believe Volk will retain his title by unanimous decision or late TKO. I see Yair starting the fight off fast and trying to bring the fight to Volk. He's going to land and put Volk on the back foot. He might win the striking exchanges by landing bigger strikes. However, I think Volk will probably be the more active fighter and he's going to be level changing a lot. I see Volk landing either a double leg or a trip off of the clinch, or he might just hold Yair up against the cage and try to outwork him. Overall, I see Volk surviving Yair's early storm and I think he'll start to increase the pace and pressure and outstrike Yair with boxing combos and leg kicks. Yair will still have his moments, but I just simply don't think his offense will be sustainable in the long run. In the later rounds, depending on how tired Yair gets will determine whether or not he gets finished in this fight. I'm confident that Volk will remain as the more conditioned fighter that's going to continue to push the pace no matter what. I believe Volk is the better fighter and he has a great team that has prepared him for a fight like this against a fighter like Yair Rodriguez. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to what I have to say, and let me know, who do you have winning and why? Alexander Volkanovski or Yair Rodriguez? Drop a comment and let me know in the comment section down below. Now if you guys enjoy content that is related to combat sports, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. That would be greatly appreciated. And other than that, it's been Steven signing out. Peace!